So there you have it. You can cut a gem opal using 50 Aussie dollars worth of tools, which is like 30 US dollars. Hello ladies and gentlemen. Today we are going to work on this, a really rough looking piece, but you can see here, beautiful color bar. We'll have a deeper look at it in a minute, but it's not the stone that's so important, it's what we're going to use. We're going to stick with the budget kit because I haven't used it yet on the channel, apart from on various little bits of testing where I was testing each individual thing. I think I did a detailed video on these ones, but we'll go from the electroplated burrs, scrap my sintered burrs, makes me sad saying that already. I've got the full range grits of sandpaper wheels, or drums or rolls or whatever you want to call it, from 240 all the way up to 5000 grit, and then we'll hit it with some felt burrs. And I think for this one we will stick to the cerium oxide just because this opal will be pretty much pure opal. There won't be a lot of stuff in the face of it. If it was a boulder opal or something, then we'd go with the aluminium oxide, but we'll just go with the cerium oxide and we should get a nice little face on it. I think we're going to peel back this one first. That's where the color bar is visible from the side, but we'll take it step by step and we'll talk our way through it. So let's dive in. So let's have a look at this entire process. Here we're just checking out the rough opal, just checking all the edges, seeing where we can see a color bar. It's not going to be too important, but it is good to get a primary idea of where everything's going. You can also use a torch, but on this one being a straight seam opal, I'm not going to bother. We're just going to grind away and see how we go. First step, grinding those edges. So we're just going to get the electroplated burr out for this one, and we'll grind pretty aggressively. You don't want to grind too aggressively when it comes to the coloured sections, but anywhere where there's potch and general iron oxides and stuff like this, you just want to grind through it as quickly as possible and just have a quick look. This one's got a bit of a triangle feature, so we're doing 3 sides. So this one's a cracker, that's showing how thick the bar is too. That's very promising. Up towards the pointier end though, it's a little bit dull. It looks like the bar's petering out. That's not too bad. It just means we're going to have to remove half the stone because it's all potchy. That's going to happen. Don't worry about it too much. Check out the bottom edge and we should be seeing a clean, thick bar, and look at that. Absolutely beautiful. So we're going to end up with a green-blue. It's going to be pretty thick, but a pretty small stone. You're looking at this and it's going to end up at a bit under a carat. So then we're just going to face it. So choose your face. Here I'm choosing this side because it's got all that loose iron oxide or whatever that is on top. And we're just going to grind straight through it. That's really soft. You can see it's coming off like boulder opal mud. It's very soft, and the electroplated burr has no problem at all. They're mega aggressive because the diamonds are coated on the outside in comparison to the sinteds, and we get straight down to it. And I pull up and have a look again just before. You can see that the color bar is just starting to peek through, but even if the bar is peeking through, you still need to keep going because of those inclusions in the face there. So those little pits that are going a little bit deeper, we have to get rid of them. There's no choice. So we get through them and we're still just off the color bar, which is absolutely a perfect time to stop grinding away at that with the electroplated burrs. They're too aggressive. So we're just going to stop and we're going to move up a little bit and check out this potchy area. Unfortunately, we go through it and there's not much there. Saving myself from slicing, we're just going to snap that one off and then grind back until we reach the color bar. And then we should have color bar all the way around the stone. You don't want to leave any potch in the face if you can avoid it. And you can see here, beautiful little stone, but the color bar is getting thin towards one end. And it's getting a bit small. So I'm just going to flatten out the back and we're just going to dop it. For beginners, I recommend just using superglue. So I've just used superglue on this one. There's a million different ways to dop, and I've covered a lot on the channel, so feel free to check out the dopping playlist. Superglue is a very easy one to get a hold of and very easy one to use, so I always recommend that. It's very easy. I don't use it too much myself, but you guys can. And then we're switching to the sandpapers. We're going across the face. We're going all the way around the edges. Basically with the high grit one, we're still getting rid of the last of the inclusions, any little ones you've left behind where you were too scared to go with the diamond burr. And also we're starting to round the edges, finalize the shape. All of that should be done with this one. By the time this one's finished, we really want the shape set in stone, and we also want all the inclusions out of the face. You still don't want to be going too deep into the color because these scratches are pretty severe still. Even above a 200 grit, it's still pretty strong. And you can see here, there's still a couple little bits and pieces in the face there. So if you've missed anything, you can just texture spot them and the texture will seep into those little pores that you've missed. Otherwise, you can do what I've done here, and if you're really worried, you just cover the whole stone in it, just paint it completely. Permanent marker, just chuck it on. If you really need to get rid of it, you can wash it off with like an isopropyl alcohol or something, but you can just grind through it very easily. And what this does is it gets into those little pores. So you can see right here, those pores, they need to go. You don't want to have any imperfections after this stage. And if you do, you'd want them to be very slight. So you can see there, all those little dots, they're little sections that I need to get rid of. Of course, there are still going to be some scratches left behind by this strong grit one, and you can see here I've left a little bit of potch. When I've rounded the corner, a little bit of potch has snuck through to the face. We got to buzz that off quickly before we go up to the next grits. And you can see here I've buzzed it off, and then we're going up through the grits. I won't show all of the grits. You're doing the exact same thing. You just want to focus on the face, you want to focus on the edges, you want to keep making sure you're not faceting by rounding those edges as well. And then you'll end up like this. A pretty shiny stone, I would say, but I still don't think it's the ultimate shine. So we switch over to the Cerium oxide, and this is the part that I enjoy the most. And I do recommend that people really get to enjoy this process, because it does take a little while, but your results, they just leap. They just leap so much when you switch over to the Cerium oxide and get this final polishing done. Same with the aluminium oxide on Boulder Opal. I feel like it's the most satisfying part. So just buzz over the entire surface, do it for as long as you want. You're not going to grind away the opal. Just be careful not to let it dry out, because the friction of the felt burr against the opal, you can actually heat up a stone quite a bit, and opal of course is pretty sensitive. If you're carving something else, don't worry about it too much. Things like agate and stuff are much more tolerant of heat. They won't crack quite so easily. But yeah, opal does have a tendency to pop if it gets too hot. But we are talking pretty hot. You've got to really try to do it to actually be able to crack one. I haven't done one in a long time. The only time I've cracked one is when I did it on purpose. So they are actually pretty resilient. You're not going to do it accidentally, hopefully. Just keep it wet. And then when you're finished, don't panic. Don't try to pry this thing off. Just drop it in water, and eventually it'll soak through and it'll release from the super glue, and you're all done. So there you have it. You can cut a gem opal using 50 Aussie dollars worth of tools, which is like 30 US dollars. Sure, some of the tools will wear out very quickly, but there's no reason why you can't get a great finish, as you can see here. So if you watch that light go across the surface, you can get a nice mirror finish opal. Of course, the color will only be as good as the rough that you buy, and for the cheap stuff, you probably won't get a lot of color, but this is the kind of stuff that you can find in some cheaper beginners parcels. It's not a top tier gem, but it's got everything we want. If you can find a little bit of color in a rock, you're doing really well. But the most important thing when you're starting out is just getting that finish. You want to be able to follow the light across all the surfaces and not see it highlight any kind of little sand spots or scratches. They're the ones you want to avoid. This stone's got, unfortunately, a couple little potchy spots, but apart from that, it is a pretty nice green dark opal. It is a crystal opal, so you can see right through to the little bit of potch, the potch layer on the back. That's what's giving it that darker body tone. But you know what? It's a pretty good stone. It's pretty nice. I actually didn't expect it to turn out quite this well. I was mostly just trying to show that you can get a nice, beautiful finish on a stone. So the better the opal rough you've got, the even better the stone. But there's no excuse for not being able to get a good finish with those tools. So it's really all you need. I would recommend just using them until they burn out, and then probably not buying them again though, and just upgrading. By that point, you should be well and truly hooked, as long as you've hit a couple of these gemmy little stones. At that point, your carving will probably only pick up, and you'll be wanting tools that last a lot longer than a couple stones each. But having said that, there are electroplated burrs out there that really die very quickly. In fact, some can burn out on a single stone, even when you're being careful, even when you're using water. Sometimes they can just delaminate a lot. That's why I tested these ones until I decided that I'd stick with them. And you can see here, this is the one I used, and to be honest, I'm not feeling a huge amount of difference from when it started out. So this one will last quite a few more of those small stones, but once you get to big stones and big carvings and you get a bit decorative and start doing patterns and stuff, yeah, these will not last very long at all. And at that point, I would definitely recommend you go to Sintered Diamond. Sure, one of these could be worth a whole kit of these, but you could burn through 100 kits of the electroplated before you'll even start changing the shape of one of these sintered. This kit here is the one that I use. And if you have a quick scan through, the one that gets the most torture is this one right here. And you can see it's a little bit worn towards the center bits here. I need to be a bit more careful about wearing it evenly across the whole burr. But you can see that's lasted hundreds of stones, and it is still going strong. So definitely pays itself off after you've done a few stones. But there you have it. Mission accomplished. Cheap tools, you can still get the job done, they're just not going to last as long. That's really what it comes down to. The progress and the speed of getting through the stone is really not that bad at all. The sandpapers, I do a few more steps rather than the Novas where I've just got the 4 points, but they work really well. I actually really like the sandpaper. I can see why some people stick with it, because sandpaper does work very quickly because the coating is on the outside. It's just the wearing and the changing of the burrs all the time and all that kind of stuff that kind of, yeah, it just wears you down. It's not something that I like doing. I like to spend more time with the stone, carving it away and polishing it up. But yeah, you can definitely get a fully polished gem. So good luck, and yeah, hopefully that helps.